Chapter 5. Proposition. A deal with Arasaka, though? Fox asked as he sat on a table with a bottle of beer. You really think you can trust a corpo, Merida? I gave a confident nod as I looked up from my work table. I was wearing welding goggles that covered my eyes, but my smile said enough. I can trust this corpo. Trust me when I say that she'll do her best to make things happen for us. Fox sipped his beer. But Arasaka? That's a stretch. I have faith in the proposal, I replied as I went back to work on the gloves I was designing. I had been practicing with the strange ability to see electronic signals for some time now, and found that I could manipulate them in similar ways that I could manipulate other elements. The problem I had was discerning one signal from another. Even in the world I originally came from, there were so many signals flying through the air that if people could see them, it would be like walking through a blizzard. In Night City, it would be more like trying to walk through mud. While I could eventually follow a signal from one point to the other, it took me far too long. The gloves I was working on would allow me to sort through the mess and turn the spectrum I could see into layered information I quickly sort through. They acted similar to eye implants, which would allow normal humans to see specific signals and code. For me, they sorted the information. Jessica will do her best to push the proposal through, I said as I double-checked a weld. If it works, we can call in a few favors from the other nomad clans to help clear some space. Arasaka will help build the facility and will focus on security to keep the construction process on pace. You're acting like it'll be a breeze, Fox snorted. I'm betting it will be a pain in the ass, honestly, I chuckled. It's not like the construction will be quick. And we'll have to handle at least one of the local gangs while we wait for it to be completed. But I prefer to plan for the worst and hope for the best. Zorro, deja que la niña cocine, Rihanna said from the side, as she brought in several small boxes. Her plans almost always work out perfectly. There's no reason to say this one won't either. Her plans work when she works with her people, Fox replied. But this time she's working with a corpo. An Arasaka corpo at that. Let's not pretend there's no difference and no risk there. Even if she can trust the corpo, you can never trust Arasaka. So, then just trust her. Rihanna set the boxes down. Our little spark plug is smart, Fox. I'm surprised at you. Fox waved his hand to dismiss the response. You know I'm right about not trusting. A loud chime went over the speakers in the garage and an AI voice followed. Notice. New message request from Merida. Speak of the devil, Rihanna grinned at me. Your girl works fast. Maybe, I said doubtfully, but Arasaka doesn't. I wonder what this is. I moved to my personal console and pulled up my messages. Sure enough, a vid message was waiting for me. I tapped the message and a new screen popped up to reveal a fit, elderly woman wearing a confident smirk. That's Rogue, I exclaimed as I watched the video. Rogue Amendiares was a famous merc who'd made her name alongside Johnny Silverhand. She was a member of Johnny's group that had been responsible for the destruction of the original Arasaka Tower. After Johnny's death, her reputation grew until she became one of the most famous mercs in Night City. Eventually, she'd opened a club whose clients were exclusively the best or most promising up-and-coming mercs and edge runners in Night City. You knew you were going places in the world of freelance merc work if you had the reputation to get in. Merida of Clan Oradum, Rose said, before taking a drag from a cigarette. We've had an unusual request from a client. They want to hire you for a job. I can't give you details just now, so I'm inviting you to Afterlife. Come meet with me and I'll fill you in. The message ended there. She didn't say who to ask for. She didn't have to. Anyone who wasn't part of the lawful part of society, in or around Night City, knew who Rogue was. Nomads were most certainly considered to be unlawful. The only reason we weren't hunted down and forced to conform to the normal laws of the area is because we had become too useful to the corpos as independent smugglers and guns for hire. We might bang head with them on occasion, but corporations don't take things personally, not on a large scale, anyway. It's all credits to them. I looked over at Fox and Rihanna, who were staring back at me. Great, Fox shook his head. First Arasaka, now we've got the godfather of fixers asking you to come in for a job. Do you ever see something as a good thing? Rihanna asked. I'm just saying that it's one thing for people to contact the clan for work, Fox countered, but it's something else entirely when they just contact Merida. He has a point, I admitted. Normally, stuff like this is addressed to the clan, not to me. Or they'll say they want to hire the clan. But this was just asking for me. It's unusual. Can't be a trap, Rihanna shrugged. Afterlife is as neutral ground gets. No one's going to mess with you there, so at least you know it's safe. Fair enough, John agreed. You going to take her up on it? I shrugged. I don't see why not. If nothing else, it gets my foot in the door at Afterlife, and that gets me access to a whole slew of new contacts. It's worth it just for the access. You want us to go with you? Rihanna asked. No offense, Merida, but you walking into Afterlife will look like a lost kid. I won't be lost, I stuck my tongue. But you are a kid, Fox pointed out. You walk in there alone and they'll eat you alive. I smiled up at Fox, my expression so devious that it sent a shudder down his spine. I had told Tyrion basically everything about myself in my last life. He had taken it rather well, once he was able to fully wrap his mind around the full concept of me. It was always strange to be whatever I was while I was a child, and people thought I was helpless. I could wipe this city off the map with a thought. And here, John was worried that some mercenaries might try to bully me. Okay, can you stop looking at me like that? Fox asked. You're freaking me out. I realized I'd been staring at him like a cat would a mouse, then lowered my head in embarrassment. Sorry, but yeah, if you two want to come along, I'm happy to have you with me. I hear Afterlife has some awesome drinks. What were you saying? Fox chuckled. I didn't hear anything after drinks. I didn't say anything after that, I replied. And yet that's all he heard, Rihanna laughed. We spent the next day preparing for the trip into the city. Fox volunteered to drive me while Rihanna stayed behind to handle and lead any clan matters that pop up while I was in the city. We pulled into a large parking lot tucked between two large megastructures. A variety of people were crowded around different vehicles, discussing things in small groups, or were even arguing or fighting. The crowd was clearly on the rough side with a sprinkling of psychosis mixed in. We were definitely in the right spot. Walking from the car, almost every head turned to watch as we made our way to the small stairwell that would take us down to Afterlife's entrance. I could tell what they were thinking. Heck, I could read the messages some of them were sending to each other through their implants. They were curious about why a child would be coming to Afterlife, what sort of sicko Fox must be to keep me around, or that I had been kidnapped, and Fox was the person who was trying to find a place to keep me, or had recently rescued me. There were a few people who swore I was the spitting image of that dwarf girl from the Merida's Isekai adventure series, and were considering getting a picture with me. Surprisingly, we were left alone all the way to the entrance until the bouncer stopped us. He was tall, built almost comically large. I'd say he was as big as Gregor Clegane, but his muscles were implants, whereas the mountain had been all natural. He was dressed in a slick black suit that tried to sharpen his profile. Hold up, he said calmly, as his eyes turned a bright blue to indicate he was communicating with someone. The light faded, and he looked down at me. Welcome to Afterlife, Ms. Oradum. He stepped aside and opened the door. If the parking lot had been a gathering of social outcasts, Afterlife's interior was where those outcasts went to do business and decompress after jobs they pulled. The air was filled with metallic and various chemical scents as the denizens smoked and engaged in a variety of recreational drugs. Synth music covered most of the sounds, with a soft blanket of reverberations and hectic melodies. More eyes were on us, and I could see and hear the calculations going on. Why were we here? Who was this kid? Was Afterlife becoming some fort of daycare? Was that the dwarf girl? A dark-skinned man of Indian descent with chromed-out arms and professional air approached us. Ms. Orodoom, Mr. Fox, Rogue is waiting for you. Please follow me. We were led to a table tucked into a small den on the other side of the bar. There sat Rogue, the merc-turned, legend-turned-fixer. She was still relatively youthful with long black hair and slim figure. Age and stress caused her face to sag a bit, and she couldn't hide the exhaustion behind her hard-set eyes. But her authority in this place and her confidence in her position couldn't be denied. Our escort stopped us at the doorway until Rogue waved for us to come in. A few people moved out of their seats to the other side of the table to allow us to sit next to her. Merida of Clan Orodoom, Rogue said as she looked at me. Huh, you really are a kid, I smiled up at her. Last time I checked. You're taller than I thought you'd be, Rogue hummed. I couldn't help but laugh. That's the first time I've been told that. Have to love the same joke told from the opposite perspective, Fox chuckled. A woman approached the table and looked at us. Can I get you to something to drink? Couple of beers for me, Fox replied. She looked at me. And for you, sweetie? Want a soda or something? Fireball whiskey, blood orange liqueur, vodka, and a splash of grenadine, I replied with confidence. Shake it up with ice, then pour it into some sparkling ginger beer. A little blue sugar on the rim too, please. The woman stared at me for several moments. I'm sorry, sweetie, but I can serve you. Just get the lady her drink. Rogue stopped her. Serving alcohol to a minor's the least illegal thing that'll be going on in here at the moment, and make it 2. Yes, ma'am, the woman conceded and walked off. Thank you, I smiled gratefully at Rogue. Sounds like a hell of a drink, Rogue replied. I like it, I snickered. So, you've got me here. I'm curious what kind of job couldn't be talked about over a message that requires me specifically. Honestly, the job is less of a job as it is a request, Rogue chuckled. But the client wanted me to offer it to you in person because they didn't want to risk a loss in reputation if the request was made public. My eyes narrowed and a slight grimace crept across my face as my imagination began to come up with ideas about what sort of request someone going through afterlife would want from a 12-year-old girl. I don't think I like where this is going already. Rogue chuckled and shook her head. It's nothing you're thinking of, I can assure you. The client wants to set up a sort of meet and greet with you and his crew. They're all big fans of your Isekai series, and rumors have spread about how you look just like the main character. They were hoping that you could wear a costume and hang out with them for a few hours. That sounds like something she's asked to do pretty often by dozens of corpo gigs and vid clubs, Fox said, clearly confused. How is this any different than the usual meet and greet? The gig isn't the issue, Rogue replied with a knowing smirk. The client is. So, who's the client? I asked, just as our drinks were brought to us. I took mine and admired the swirling red liquid and sparkling blue sugar before taking a sip and enjoying the mix of spice, citrus, and sweet flavors flowing together. The Voodoo Boys. I nearly spit out my drink, and Fox started cursing as his reaction had caused beer to spurt out of his nose. Excuse me, I said as I collected myself. The Voodoo Boys? As in, the gang? Gang is being generous, Fox said as he rubbed his nose free of the sting from the beer. More like a bunch of drugged-out pseudo-mystic netrunners. You can't be serious though, right? The Voodoo Boys want a Princess Merida meet and greet? Rogue laughed and nodded as she handed me a small tablet. Came from their leader herself. She paid a lot to keep this confidential. Apparently they loved the magic and old god stuff that goes on in the brain dances. Makes sense considering the fucked up stuff they're into. That actually explains some of the really weird fan packages, Fox quipped. I doubt it, I replied. That weird stuff comes from openly overinvested fans. I figured they would just stick with hacking my systems and cyber-stalking me. Asking for a private meeting is a lot more civil than I thought they would choose. Surprised me too, Rogue nodded. But, like I said, they paid a lot just for me to put the offer on the table. I looked over the information on the tablet. They wanted me in full costume, which included the garnet gambeson coat with golden house Oradoom crest studs, pauldrons, gauntlets, greaves, and jewelry. I'd made several such outfits for myself once I began to receive similar events from people who wanted interviews or princess sessions where I pretended to be, well, myself. I'd been interviewed dozens of times and been to several events, including a few kids' birthday parties where I dressed up in the outfits I used to wear in Thedas. It was a fun and lucrative side business. I noticed the price they were willing to pay, then looked up at Rogue. I'm sorry, but there has to be a mistake here. There are 2 digits more than something like this should cost. What do you mean? Asked Fox as he leaned over to look at the tablet. He coughed in shock and sputtered with surprise. 30,000 eddies? Are you kidding me? Apart from the fact that you charge bargain bin prices for an appearance and think that 2 digits shouldn't be there, there's no joke here, Rogue replied as she crossed one leg over the other. And you can see that they've guaranteed your safety. They just want to meet with you and do whatever is you do during a meet and greet. I nodded. It was true that I only charged 300 credits for a meet and greet. While that was super cheap, I didn't do a lot of them. My schedule with Clan Oro Doom simply wouldn't allow it. But I wanted to make it possible for most anyone to be able to have the chance at the experience. The proceeds from the brain dances kept my bank account flush, and the proceeds I got from Clan Oro Doom ensured I had 2 reliable revenue streams, so I didn't feel right about charging extravagant prices just to wear clothes I was most comfortable in and meet people who enjoyed the stories of my lives. All right, I said, as I sipped my drink. Tell them I'll do it, but I have 2 stipulations. Oh? Rogue grinned slyly. What are they? I want the building they want to hold it in to be scrubbed clean, I insisted. Also, I want their leader's contact info so I can set things up with her personally. We're actually going to go into a Voodoo Boys hangout willingly, Mary? Fox asked. Mary was his nickname for me. It was short for Merida and described my typical, upbeat attitude. I guess so, I smiled. I'm curious to see how they'll react to me.